Hey, Danielle Fitzpatrick Clark here, host of Minds of the Mighty podcast. And this isn't just your ordinary podcast. This is where we get real with Olympians, pro athletes, celebrities, and other amazing high achievers who've all conquered their fears and challenges and come out successful on the other side. So every week, you're going to get unforgettable conversations. You're going to get information on how to move things forward and powerful validation for you building your own dreams. So hit that subscribe button, spread the love, and let's go. Hey everybody, Danielle Fitzpatrick Clark here, your host of Minds of the Mighty podcast. And we are back with another fabulous guest. I am so excited for today's episode. There's going to be something special at the end, so just hang tight. You got to watch the whole thing. We have something very special for you guys. And today's guest is Angela Fuller. She is a 43-year-old mother that resides in Highland Ranch, Colorado. She is a dedicated fitness instructor, a competitive gymnast, and an inspirational speaker, as well as she is an American Ninja Warrior and was featured on NBC's last season of American Ninja Warrior. And so which was the summer. It aired this summer, yes, but you did the competition last year, right?
Yes, in March, and it aired the end of June. Yep.
End of June. Amazing. So we're gonna dive right in. And so that is a very small blip of what you're actually about. So I would love for you to tell people just a little bit more about your background and everything.
Yep. So yes, I'm so excited to be doing all those things today, but I'm going to take you guys back a little bit to share with you why I'm so excited. So I grew up in Littleton, Colorado, and I was a competitive gymnast and cheerleader when I was younger. And then I went on to cheer at Colorado State University. Well, right out of college, I was in a really horrible car accident and I broke my back. So my active life was over as I knew it. I gained 50 pounds. Lucky for me, I met my wonderful husband, Steve. We got married. We decided to have a family. During my second pregnancy, the pregnancy herniated 2 more discs. And I could not feel my legs. I was basically like numb from the waist down. So I was on disability starting at 20 weeks. So once I had my little boy, we were hopeful that I would be okay. Had my little boy, did an MRI. He was actually in NICU as well. I had him early. So anyways, we did an MRI and they're like, you're done. Like your back is so bad. If you do anything more, you're going to blow those discs and we'll have to fuse your spine. Ooh. So I developed severe postpartum depression and just struggled so much. My life was over. I was in pain all the time. My baby wasn't sleeping. My baby was on oxygen. And I hit complete rock bottom. So a friend had recommended Zumba, and I went to my first class. I could barely move. I was in the back row, but I enjoyed it, and I got a break from my kids, and it was great, but I was still in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. So the big moment was I got a phone call from my very best friend since we were 16 years old, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And it completely rocked my world and made me realize, like, I want my life back. Life is too short. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I need to fight for my life. So I hired a nutritionist and I lost the 50 pounds. I was back pain free, doing weight training, HIIT training, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I decided, if I can do this, what else can I do? So I decided to start teaching group fitness to help other moms. And I also decided to chase 2 dreams. So I dreamed every night since my car accident of flying and flipping in the air again, because that's who I am, a gymnast. So I first saw American Ninja Warrior. I saw a mom hit a buzzer at 42, and I was like, wait, I could do this. And so I signed up for ninja classes 4 years ago, started training. But if you know, it's really hard to get on that show. Yeah. So while I was attempting to get on that show, I decided also to sign up for gymnastics classes. So I actually started an adult class and I started competing. And last year, I actually competed in a national gymnastics competition in Memphis, Tennessee, against college kids. So that has been, it's been incredible. And then finally this year, on Valentine's Day, I got the call from American Ninja Warrior after 4 years of trying. Yep. There's 70,000 people applied and they chose 200 of us. And I was one of them. So I got to go on the show and fulfill that huge dream. But the really cool part, you guys, is that my hero, my inspiration, lives in LA, and she was on my sideline last year at 2:30 in the morning in the freezing cold watching
Yeah.
me on the show. So
Yeah.
that is the whole journey. That's why I'm so excited to be here and share my story with you guys.
Yeah. So she gave you the Cliff Notes version, guys. And there's so many good things that we could go into, and I think there's a couple that we're just going to touch upon because they just seem to be, there seems to be a theme with this first season of Minds of the Mighty. So we're gonna roll with it. But I love how you took 4 years. Like, you had the dream and you went to work on it. And I'm sure you started working on it before you tried to get on American Ninja Warrior too. How many years altogether was it for
So it
the
was about
dream?
5 years. It
5 years.
was 5, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
still like really short. Like, the dream came into
Yeah.
actualization after you thought of it 5 years later. So just for everyone's awareness, what are some of the things that you did to keep moving that dream forward when it came to your mindset?
Absolutely. Because it is 95% your mind, 5% physical. It is very hard. And I shared it actually on social media, the whole journey, which made it even harder, right? Every year I shared, I applied, and every year I didn't get the call.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really important because that's real life, is that
Yeah.
we don't usually get what we want the first year. So it was very hard. And every year I cried a lot. It was,
Yeah.
I didn't, it was really hard. But I knew it's what I wanted. And I just wanted to keep going. And I knew that, what if I didn't, and that was the year, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So this last year I even said jokingly, this is my fourth and final.
Hmm.
I don't know if it really was my fourth and final, but I also am a big vision board person. So I had made a vision board, and it was on there, and I had everything on there come true, but this. And it
Yeah.
was that one thing, like the dangling carrot, like this was the big dream, the ultimate dream. And I
Yeah.
think it was so big too, because it's so hard.
Yeah.
There's also not a lot of older people. I'm the oldest ever from Colorado to be on the show. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of the unattainable dream that I was like, if I can make this come true, I
Mhm.
can show the world that anything is possible.
I love that. So just so everyone's aware, she she really went for it. So I love that you talk about that, because a lot of times, I think that people have these big visions, but they kind of they give up on them because they just seem too far away. And I don't know if this happens to you, but when I say that I'm going to do something, I can't not do it. It's a very
Yeah.
interesting feeling, but it's that feeling of like, I know it's really hard and I really want to quit, but I just can't quit. I just have to keep moving forward. Is that kind of how you felt during this process?
Absolutely. And I envisioned it. That was the crazy thing, is I was like, I saw myself on the show.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know I'm going to be on it. Like, I can't even explain it. And I even bought this tank top the first year I applied that said American Ninja Warrior, and I put it on a shelf. And I
Hmm.
was like, I will, like, a visual every
Hmm.
day that I got my clothes, I could see it there. And I'm like, I will wear that someday. And the
Yeah.
day I got the call, I shook off the dust, right? For 4 years. Because it sat there for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and I remember just being like, I did it, right?
Yeah.
And the coolest part was, because I was vulnerable with the world about this
Yeah.
dream, when I got the call, it was like we all got the call. Everybody who's followed me for 4 years. So that was like, it made it extra special. It wasn't just, it was like showing them that, I'm leading the path. I'm showing you that if I can do it, you can do
Yeah. Oh, so there's so many good things. I'm just going to point out a couple. Is that um I love vision boards. I do. I have myself needed something to actually be able to touch that's there, that's a part of the dream, in order for me to keep visualizing. It's so interesting that you got the tank top. Like, yeah, that's probably exactly
Yep.
what I would do, because I need something that I could actually touch, that was like, okay, now it's time. So I've done that before with so many things, and I think that's definitely something that helps a lot of athletes too. Is just like the visualization, but even having something like tangible in their hands that helps them move towards the dream too. Um, what else did I love? There were so many things that I loved about this. Well, okay, the other piece was the vulnerability piece. So I think a lot of people will keep their dreams to themselves. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like, well, if I keep it to myself, then the only one that's disappointed is me. And really, the way that I see that is like, well, if you keep it to yourself, then there's no one else there to hold you accountable, and to share that with you. And, I love what you did too, because it was like everybody won. And so when you share that vulnerable piece and they go through the journey, I mean, you probably don't even know how you motivated everybody that was following you and watching you in this process too, and what they were able to see and what they were able to do for themselves based on you just being vulnerable and sharing. So I love that you did that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be frank, it was very hard. I remember being like, why am like every year they'd be like, did you get the call? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And but I also, like, if you follow me online, I show a lot of fails. I show myself falling, how many times it takes to get an obstacle, or in gymnastics, because I think that's important too, right? We fail
Hmm.
more than we succeed. And there is a whole process there, to get where you are. You don't get on the mountain without being in the valley a lot and climbing and falling and climbing and falling. And
Hmm.
so I think that I've always felt like I love inspiring people. And the only way to do that is being vulnerable and honest.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. I love that. Um, I love that you showed them how you fail too. I don't think that's
Yeah.
very, you don't see that very often with athletes or celebrities or even entrepreneurs. In fact, one of the things that I've heard a lot in the entrepreneurial space, the online space, is just, fake it till you make it. And
Yeah.
and people will say that. I'm like, that's the worst advice. Why would you say that? And I think they're really, it's taboo to show vulnerability, and people are seeing it as weakness. And really, there's so much strength in being vulnerable and sharing the process. And people want to get to the end. And I'm wondering if part of that is because, of course, they want to get to the end because they're not seeing the steps. They're not seeing what it's like to actually achieve a goal and all the failures that it takes. And so, because nobody's seeing it, nobody's talking about it, everyone just assumes that, well, they did it. So, I can do it and I can do it tomorrow. And really, it's like, yes, you can absolutely do it. And just know that, when we say it's not easy, we're not lying. It's not easy. It does take a lot of failures. So I love that you share that too. So,
Well, and they highlighted that on the show. So
yeah,
it was kind of cool when they actually finally called me. They surprised me. They told my husband, "We're
yeah.
calling your wife, so don't tell her." So I walked in the door and he had me look down at my phone, and it was all on TV. And that was really, and somebody was like, "That's going to be your story on TV." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's real. It helps so many more people to show them, like, my
Yeah,
excitement of what does it look like when you chase something so long and you finally get the phone call. And
yeah,
it's overwhelming. I'm so excited that all of America got to see that moment of me
yeah.
answering that call.
Okay, so
Yeah.
all of this came into fruition for you, but it was definitely not easy even getting to the place of deciding that this was on the list. This was going to be on the list. Now, before that, you got into a pretty severe car accident. And
Yeah.
then what was it like to recover from that car accident? The first piece of that.
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
Yeah.
So I was right out of college. And that's the other thing I do want to point out, that I was basically not active for 14 years. So
Yep.
this wasn't like a few years.
Yep.
I thought I would never flip and fly again. And I remember after that car accident, I had never had back pain. And if you've ever had chronic back pain or injuries,
Yeah.
it's awful. You can't avoid your back. So
Yeah.
I was in constant pain for 14 years. I slept on a heating pad. I would, like, at one point I was crawling, like, it was so bad.
Yeah.
I remember after that, because I was right out of college, and I
Yeah.
remember just being like, oh my gosh, like, the life I knew, I was an athlete my
Yeah.
entire life. And to not have choose to be done, but be done because of a car accident. So yeah, that was my first rock bottom. It was pretty
Yeah.
awful. And then gaining that weight was difficult for me. I've never been overweight. I've always been petite and a cheerleader. And I felt trapped in a body I didn't even recognize. I remember looking in the mirror just going, what happened? And I want the old Angela back. And so, yeah, that car accident, I was young. It was bad.
Yeah.
So yeah. but that was like the first time I think it made me realize like, so the unfortunate thing, I didn't have a seatbelt on. So I actually shouldn't even be here today. Because the accident was that bad. So he rear-ended somebody going 60 miles an hour and I didn't have a seatbelt on and the airbag went off. And so that was difficult too. If I'm honest, I was young, I was 22. And so that was even more difficult. I made a stupid decision and I could have died.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're glad you're here.
yeah.
You had big things, you had big things to do. So definitely had a
Yeah.
guardian angel on that one. So this is really good for everyone to hear too, is that, you got a second chance, really. And
Yeah.
even for 14 years of not move doing much movement and then to make that decision and move forward, it's so interesting. And yes, back pain is awful. I've definitely worked with that myself, especially after having my second, just because of how the birth went. And it sounds like after your second too, you herniated more disc. Is that
Two more discs.
two more?
So
Wow.
carrying
Okay.
him, yeah. So carrying him herniated two more. So the damage was always
Carrying
there,
him.
and then
Yeah.
carrying him. But then we thought when I gave birth, you can't do an MRI when you're pregnant, or they don't recommend it. So we thought when I gave birth, maybe they would. The minute I gave birth, the pain was still there, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I guess this isn't going to be fixed. And then I had a traumatic birth experience, and then he was a NICU and oxygen and a preemie, and so
Yeah.
that I would say that was my biggest. I've never experienced postpartum. That was absolutely awful. I didn't tell anyone. That's my biggest regret, is I just thought I'll get through this. And honestly, my angel on that one was my friend saying, let's go dance. And even though I couldn't move, I think that's the other thing, is just show up and do something, move your body, and getting out of the house away from your kids, you know?
When they're little, it's just it they're yeah, it's a lifesaver. And so movement, I love that you talk about movement too for postpartum, and you had a lot going on. And so your friend said, come on, get out of the house and go to Zumba.
Yep.
Yeah. So
now I teach Zumba.
Now you teach it.
Yeah.
And so did she do the class with you? Was she with you through that part of the experience?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. The friend that encouraged me to go only went to the class a couple times.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing. And now, and then I got addicted. So that was kind of ironic, but, yeah. And so now I've been, and now teaching it, I've helped so many moms. I teach mostly moms. Yeah. And it's like, you've won a gift of an hour where you get to focus on yourself. And that was my other big message, is that, as we get older as moms, we typically live our dreams through our kids, as opposed to chasing our own dreams. And it's so important that we continue to chase our dreams and show our kids that they're important, and to love themselves, and that we're not just a mom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the big things that I've been doing with my company and working from home, is that because I have three daughters. And so I always want them to see I'm like, just do good things and work hard, and everything works out in your favor. And so it's really great to hear from all the teachers, not just one of them, but every year, all three of my girls, like, they are so sweet and kind and so smart, and they are the hardest working students in the class. I'm like, yes, that's always and I love to hear that. And I'm so proud, because they put in an all-in effort, all three of them. And so when you hear that over and over and over again, I'm like, okay, good. That means I'm showing them the right way. So it's
absolutely. And I think it was interesting too on the show there, they allow 15-year-olds now, and I have a 14-year-old. So that was kind of interesting. And I had the moms that would come up to me and be like, which one's your kid? And I'm like, oh no, I'm competing. And I think that was because I was 42. That was so cool. And I remember a couple of them like, why aren't you competing? And they're like, oh, I'm too old. And then I found out they were the same age. I'm like, no, you're never too old. And then having your kids cheer for you with signs is like the coolest feeling. I think it's super important.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the experience, so you got the call, and then what is kind of the next steps when you go to American Ninja Warrior? So you get the call, and then you go to the next showing, the next recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sign your life away. You do. There's so much paperwork. I'm like, what did I just sign? No, I'm kidding. And then actually, you only get a month notice, you guys. So I only had a month notice, and they fly you to LA. And then it's filmed at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Yeah.
So we stayed at a hotel near the airport, and it's a lot. There's pictures and interviews and videos and basically all the B-roll stuff and all that. And then you meet all the ninjas you're competing with because there's different episodes you film. I was the first night of filming. It had been raining the entire time leading up to us being there, and it was super cold, which we were all a little nervous about. We stayed up a couple nights getting ready to be up because you're up all night. That's the other thing. So you get on set at 6 p.m. and you're on set till 6 a.m. Wow. I was supposed to run at midnight, 11, but it was the first night of filming and there was a ton of delays and stuff that happened. Yeah. And then right before I ran, they did like a union lunch break. So by the time I ran, it was 2:30. And so it was it was freezing cold. It was 38 degrees. It's pretty funny. I've posted one of the videos that they don't show, but it's like, you can see our breath. We're shivering. So when people on their couches judging, I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like you are so brave to be on that show. It's so cold. It's the middle of the night. You're kind of delirious. When you come out, all the lights and cameras, I'm so glad I was prepared for that because that's overwhelming. There's so many people, so many, but it was magical. And then I had a virtual sideline, and then you have your in-person sideline. So my virtual were some students and one of my training partners. And then my sideline was my family, my husband, 2 boys, and my best friend and her husband right there. And so that was, seeing them when I walked out was the coolest part. My night of filming was a little difficult. There was a lot of falling. The obstacles were wet and frozen by the time I ran. So, but I think the coolest part at my age was I made it getting there, and I was just so excited to be there. And I remember after not crushing the course, the producers were like, oh, well, we're still putting you on TV. I was like, okay. Because they knew like winning's different for everybody. And I won getting there, you know?
Oh, that's so amazing. I'm so glad that you got on the TV and everything. So that filmed, or that rolled this summer. So in June.
Yeah.
What's it been like since? What's it been like since the world saw you on American Ninja Warrior?
It's been awesome. So I think the number one thing, my dream was to share my story, right? Inspire people. I just want people I remember even when I walked on the stage staring, like, the amount of moms that are going to see this and be like, I'm going to go do that, or I'm going to go write a book, or I'm going to go, whatever your dream is. Yeah. That was the coolest. I met with the news multiple times, newspapers, lots of podcasts, so many interviews of sharing my story. A lot public speaking. So I think that's also the ultimate dream is I feel like we all go through something for a reason. And so I'm just excited to share that story with this fairy tale ending, with the whole world.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing. Okay. So we get a really good idea of the whole progression of it. And I love that you have like all these little steps and that you share so much and you're so vulnerable with your audience, your growing audience. So what's next? What's one of the big things that is next for you now that you've had this experience? Because I know very well we've got the vision board and it's fulfilled, but there's probably a second one that with a whole bunch of new things on it. So what are some of the new things?
So it's really interesting. This is the number one question, right? Mm-hmm. And these were such big dreams that I'm like, I'm kind of soaking it in and enjoying that dream coming true. But I would say, and the number one question is, will you go back on? So a lot of people don't know that they filmed season 16 back to back. And I did not do 16. I was covered in bruises. And it was like filmed a week later and I mentally was not in a place, but they'll do season 17 probably. And I don't know, I'll never say never. It was a lot more than I had anticipated. But of course it'd be awesome to go on and crush the course, but we'll see. Cause being a rookie, you learn a lot. I would do things a lot differently. I would have eaten more and slept more. Um, um, yeah. So anyways, there's a lot, but I guess I would say maybe, we'll look at that. But the biggest thing is speaking, sharing my story. I actually do someday want to write a book. I'm giving you this much of my story. It's been so for me to be here is pretty incredible, even the things you guys don't know. So probably that, but just doing more public speaking, I would say is the big thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'm going back to nationals for gymnastics. And I think the big thing when you get older is just maintaining, if I'm honest, is maintaining my gymnastic skills in ninja as I age. I want to do this forever. Now that I got it back, I'm not going anywhere. There is also a USA, like a masters over 40 gymnastics team that just competed overseas. Team USA. So I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool. So yeah, there's some stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So how do people get a hold of you? I want her to speak. And so how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on all the social channels, Instagram, Facebook. Honestly, under Facebook, it's Angela Fuller. And then under Instagram, it's COLO, like Colorado Fitness Chick. And I have a link tree, and it's honestly easier just to click the link tree. It has, if you want to see my run on American Ninja Warrior, it's on there. My podcasts are on there. All my news coverage, all that stuff is on there. And then also my big logo on the show was faith over fear. So I had a lot of fear and I chose faith. And so my sideline, they had it's a cross with a girl in a handstand. It says faith over fear. So I actually have shirts that I sell, and all the money goes to my friend who's fighting stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, it's so great. That's so great. Okay, guys. And just stay to the very end, guys. On the outro, you're going to hear how you can go and get easy access to everything. Sometimes it's better to get the easy access button. And so I'll give you guys that whether you're watching this on the live stream or you're listening to the audio version of the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and everything that you're up to in the world. And so I told everyone to stay on to the end because we do want to do something really special for this podcast, and it's the first time we've done this on the podcast, on any of my podcasts. And so we're going to actually dedicate this to someone for you. So tell us more about what's going on.
Yeah. So my very best friend, Shonda, has been fighting stage 4 breast cancer for 7 years. It's metastatic at this point. And she is not doing very well at this point. And so any prayers are very appreciated, but, it's also a reminder in her honor, please go get checked. She's only 44 years old. She's about my same age, and she's a mother of 2, and she's a special education teacher, and she's the most incredible woman. And so when people call me a warrior, she's actually the real warrior, and she's my hero. So.
Yeah. Is there any place that people can go to support your friend?
Yes. So if you go on my link tree, I have my Venmo, and actually I just did a party in pink for her with all my friends, but I am paying for her house cleaners and their meals and everything right now. So if you want to contribute to her family and supporting her right now, she's unfortunately in bed right now, not able to move. And so it's been a very difficult time. And so we're just trying to support her family as best as possible. And so that's why having her on my sideline last year was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
To have my hero there. That was the hardest thing, to keep going all these years, knowing that I didn't know if she'd be able to see this dream finally come true that she inspired, and she did. And so it was extra special.
It does make it extra special when something like that is going on behind the scenes. So prayers are with her and you and your family and her family during this time. So, but we'll make sure that we have everything on your show notes page so that if people hear the story and they want to go and support, they can. So, but yeah, we're so grateful that you joined us and that you shared. And I know there's some to be continued stuff going on, so we may just have to have you on for a recap if if you decide you want to do American Ninja Warrior again.
Yes.
But is there any final words that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Yes. So dream big, like really, really big. That huge dream that you have that keeps you up at night, that haunts you in your dreams, go for it. It's never too late. Do not use age as an excuse. It's not an excuse.
Yeah.
And never give up. So I know it's hard when you keep getting rejected and told no, or things aren't going the way you thought, but never give up. Just keep going until you fulfill it, because when you fulfill that dream, that feeling, I want you to have the feeling I had. Yeah. It's priceless.
Yeah, so good. All right, everyone. You guys heard it from Angela. Dream big. And maybe even dream bigger.
Yes, bigger.
Yes, dream bigger. I know that's usually what I think. I'm like, can I do this bigger? But that's another episode. I have a feeling there's another episode which is dream bigger. So we'll put that on a to be continued. And thank you so much for joining us, Angela. And guys, just stay to the end. And I will have more information on how you can find Angela and how you can connect with her, and even support her friend, who's her hero, not just a friend, her hero, who's needing that right now from us. So we appreciate you guys for listening and watching. And until next time, bye from us at Minds of the Mighty podcast.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey everyone, Danielle Fitzpatrick Clark here, your host of Minds of the Mighty podcast. And wasn't that an amazing episode with the Angela Fuller? So if you guys want to learn more about Angela, and if you want to support her causes, the fastest way to get there is to go to her Linktree account, which is linktr.ee/Angela_Fuller. So you guys can go right there to her Linktree. You guys can also go and check out her show notes page, and we will have those links right there for you guys. And her show notes page is on a bit.ly, so you guys can go ahead and go to her bit.ly as well. And just for easy access on that one, guys, her bit.ly is bit.ly/MOTM-Angela. And that is her bit.ly link, so you guys can go check out her show notes page. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please share out this episode on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and all the different social media channels. We really appreciate your support, and we will see you next time.